Do you believe that we can shift the culture's economics right now?
Yes, I do, because I think I put it in the book on resetting the economies.
Yes.
But see, it's one thing to live in the economy of the kingdom on a personal level, and we all need to learn how to do that. God has actually shown me some very significant principles for us as individuals and as families to know how to get into the economy of the kingdom. For instance, in the book of Philippians, the apostle Paul said, "And my God shall supply all of your need according to his riches and glory." He did not say, "My God's going to supply your need according to the economy of Philippi." He said, "My God will supply your need according to the riches that are in glory, according to the kingdom realities." And see, and by the way, this is what happened with the widow of Zarephath. Whenever the prophet came to her, she lived in the economy of the kingdom while everybody else was perishing. This is what happened with Isaac when he sowed in the years of famine and received a hundredfold increase, and then on and on and on. There's many principles in the scripture where we see this. But having said that, God also calls us to reset the economy of cultures. See, when his children went into Babylonian captivity in Jeremiah 29:7, Jeremiah tells them, he says, "Seek the peace of the city." And that's the word shalom, and it involves prosperity. It's not just prosperity, but it involves prosperity. He said, "Seek the peace of the city, for in its peace you will have peace." And it's amazing. God is telling a bunch of foreigners in a foreign land, you have the power to determine the economy of this culture. And that if you will do the right things, I will bless this culture for your sake, and the entire culture will be blessed, and you will get the benefit of it because I give you the right and the authority to stand before me, I believe, in the courts of heaven and see that done.
Yes.
Pastor
Yes.
Robert, you are so powerful. You bring so many key points to the economy and everything that shifts in the culture today. But you talk about very strongly about building a house of prayer. Can you speak on that? How do we build a culture in the house of prayer that can change and shift those type of spirits in the courts of heaven?
That is such a critical piece, Mondo. The In Isaiah 56:7, here's what he says. He said, "Even them I will bring to my holy mountain." And the holy mountain is not a geographical place, it's a governmental place in the spirit. And when you look at the word them, if you go through Isaiah 56, here's who them are. It's the rejected ones. It's the strangers. It's the foreigners. It's the eunuchs. It's those who feel completely inadequate. I'm saying, God, that's me. And so he said, I'm going to bring them. I'm going to bring what would seemingly be the weakest of the weak. And I'm going to endow them with such a power, they're going to stand in a governmental place of the Spirit. And here's what he said. He said, "I will make them joyful in my house of prayer." And then he says this. He says, "And their offerings, their burnt offerings, and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. It says, for my house shall be a house of prayer for all nations." So what God's saying there, it takes a house of prayer to be able to stand before him to represent a culture. For instance, this is why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. God was looking for 10 righteous or a house of prayer that could represent that culture. And God said, if there's just 10 that could represent the culture, they'll give me the legal right to spare it. And so God is looking for a house of prayer. And this is what I was telling Lori yesterday. This is what I believe. I believe that those that are partners with you guys, they can bind together in the spirit and they can become a house of prayer. We don't realize the power of our offerings. See, he says this house of prayer, it doesn't just pray, it brings an offering. It says their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. Because here's what happens. When we bring an offering as a house of prayer, it literally releases a testimony before the Lord that does not just speak for us, but it speaks in behalf of the culture we're representing. See, this is what Noah did when he came out of the ark. He built an altar. He offered up a sacrifice. When God smelt the aroma in Genesis 8, when God smelt the aroma, the scripture says he made a judicial decree, no more curse. And then he said this, watch this. He said this, seed time and harvest. So he released the earth from a curse and reset the economy based on the offering of Noah. Because why? Noah was now a governmental man. He was in charge of the earth. He did not just bring this offering in behalf of himself and his family. He actually brought this offering in behalf of the whole earth that he was now in charge of. And God says to us as a house of prayer, I give you governmental authority. I want you to pray prayers. I want you to stand in the gap. I want you to present your petition, but I want you to bring an offering that will speak before me, that will cause me and allow me to make a judicial decree of no more curse and reset the economy, even of nations.